MacGyver ran for 7 seasons and built one of the most loyal followings in television. 2 of the 8 cast members at its center are gone. One went blind during filming and stayed on the show. The story of what happened to the rest is bigger than you would expect. Number 1. The man whose face every frame of the show revolved around. Richard Dean Anderson was 35 years old when he won the role of Angus MacGyver, and he won it because he forgot to take his glasses off at the audition. The casting director thought it showed a lack of pretension. He was right. Anderson played MacGyver as the rarest kind of action hero: quiet, bookish, slightly amused, allergic to guns, and quietly afraid of heights. The audience trusted him because he looked like he was thinking before he moved. He was born January 23, 1950, in Minneapolis. His father taught high school. His mother painted and sculpted. He wanted to play professional hockey until he broke both arms in separate accidents at 16. The second so violently his elbow snapped backward, and he spent 3 months in a hospital. Pins are still in there. The summer he gave up on hockey, he bicycled 5,641 miles from Minnesota to Alaska, riding the last 33 days alone. Before he ever stepped onto a soundstage, he worked at Marineland, where his job was holding fish in his mouth so killer whales could leap up and snatch them. He started MacGyver at $30,000 an episode. By the end of the run, he was making $100,000. Every other principal on the call sheet earned a fraction of that. He used the position it bought him exactly once to save his closest friend's job, but more on that in a moment. He never married. The relationship that changed his life began in 1996, when a wardrobe stylist named April Prose was set up with him by a mutual friend. She had heard the rumors about him and decided in advance that she would not date him. Within a week of meeting, she called her mother and told her she had just met the man she was going to spend the rest of her life with. Their daughter Wiley Quinn Anaros was born on August 2, 1998. She was not breathing at birth and had to be revived in front of him. He has called her his reason for breathing. He walked away from acting in 2013 to be home for his daughter's high school years. He is 76 now, semi-retired, living near Malibu, and still occasionally flying to European conventions to meet fans, the way he was last summer in London and Bonn. He has been offered cameos on the 2016 MacGyver reboot and a long list of Stargate revival projects. He has turned all of them down. When he was once asked why MacGyver had finally ended in 1992, he answered with a single sentence: "I was physically exhausted and had no life." The man duct-taped to a generation's idea of cleverness gave up the spotlight the moment a 4-year-old started waiting at the door for him to come home. Number 2. Dana Elcar was 57 years old when MacGyver premiered, and Pete Thornton was supposed to be a small character. Anderson's chemistry with him made Pete the warm center the show kept circling back to. He played the boss who picked up the phone and sent MacGyver into impossible places, and he played him with the world weariness of a man who had seen too much but still believed too much. His real life began in Ferndale, Michigan in 1927. His parents were Danish immigrants, his father a butcher and carpenter, his mother a nanny. He ran away from home at 13. At 18, he enlisted in the Navy and served in Newfoundland. In the early 60s, he drove a New York taxicab while studying acting under Sanford Meisner at the neighborhood playhouse. His Broadway debut came in 1955, opposite Hume Cronyn and Jessica Tandy. He created the role of the hitman Ben in the first American production of Harold Pinter's The Dumb Waiter. By the time MacGyver found him, he had spent 3 decades being one of the most dependable character actors in television. In 1991, he was diagnosed with glaucoma. Between seasons, he went on a boat trip and accidentally left his medication at home. By the time he returned, his eyesight had collapsed to the point where he could not read scripts or recognize faces unless they were inches away. Producers concluded they would have to drop the Pete Thornton character. The decision lasted exactly 1 night. Richard Dean Anderson heard about it, walked into the producer's office the next morning, and said, "Dana is a vital character in our series." The condition was written into the show instead. Pete went blind on screen at the same pace Dana went blind in life. Elcar had been married 3 times: Catherine Mead in 1948, Peggy Romano from 1954 to 1970, and his life partner Thelma Garcia, who survived him. 4 children carried his name forward. His final stage role in 2002 was Vladimir in Waiting for Godot. He played him completely blind, with a real white cane. He died on June 6, 2005, at Community Memorial Hospital in Ventura, California, of complications from pneumonia. He was 77. Anne Bancroft died the same day. The DVD of MacGyver, the complete second season, was released the next morning, June 7th, with his face on the cover. The man whose eyes failed him became the rare actor in Hollywood history saved not by a doctor or a lawyer, but by the lead of his own show, who told the room, "He stays." Number 3. Bruce McGill was a Texas kid with a drama degree from the University of Texas at Austin and a body of stage work most actors only dream about. Hamlet on Broadway at 25, Trinity Square Repertory in Providence, Sherlock Holmes and Peer Gynt and Tom Jones. None of that is what made him famous. What made him famous was a 1978 comedy called Animal House, where he played a fraternity wildman named D-Day and drummed the William Tell Overture on his own throat. He had been so desperate for the role at the time that he begged for it. He brought that same lovable chaos to Jack Dalton, MacGyver's bush pilot best friend, across 18 episodes between 1986 and 1992. Dalton was always returning with a new scheme that required MacGyver to bail him out. McGill played him with such warmth that the audience kept forgiving him too. He even brought one trick from Animal House with him to the show. In an early episode, Jack Dalton soothes a baby in his care by drumming the William Tell Overture on his own throat, the same gag McGill had built his earliest comedy moment on 12 years before. He was born July 11, 1950, in San Antonio. His father sold real estate and insurance. His mother was a painter. He married Gloria Lee in 1994, the same year so many of his MacGyver castmates were unraveling their own marriages. They are still together. 31 years now, no divorce papers, no scandals, no public drama. He still lives in San Antonio. He plays piano and guitar at the level of a working musician. He sails when he can. He has not stopped working. Detective Vince Corsack on Rizzoli and Isles ran for 6 seasons. Lincoln, Collateral, The Insider, Allie, My Cousin Vinny. Michael Mann calls him a favorite. He played Secretary of War Edwin Stanton in Steven Spielberg's Lincoln in 2012. He turned 75 last summer and is still on call sheets, including a recurring spot on the Amazon series Reacher. He came back to the MacGyver franchise as Detective Greer in the 2017 CBS reboot, returning for one episode, 30 years after the original. He has remained close to Richard Dean Anderson the entire time. The actor who spent his most loved role being unreliable on screen has been the most reliable man in his hometown for 31 years running. Number 4. Cuba Gooding Jr. was 21 years old when he showed up on MacGyver as Billy Colton, the youngest of 3 bounty-hunting brothers. The 1991 episode that should have launched a spin-off series for the Coltons never went to series. He filmed it the same year another director named John Singleton cast him as the lead in a movie called Boys in the Hood. 5 years after that, he stood on the Academy Awards stage, shouted "Show me the money" into the microphone, and won Best Supporting Actor for Jerry Maguire. He was born January 2, 1968 in the Bronx. His father was the lead vocalist of the soul group The Main Ingredient. The family moved to Los Angeles in 1972 after the band's hit Everybody Plays the Fool. 2 years later, his father walked out. Cuba was 6. His mother raised 4 kids alone. He attended 4 different high schools: North Hollywood, Tustin, Apple Valley, and John F. Kennedy. He married his high school sweetheart Sarah Kapfer in 1994. They had 3 children: Spencer, Piper, and Mason. Mason has become an actor in his own right, with roles in Booksmart and the Scream franchise. Sarah filed for legal separation in 2014. Gooding filed for divorce in 2017. In June of 2019, he turned himself in to New York police after allegations of unwanted sexual contact at a Manhattan rooftop bar. The case stretched on for almost 3 years before he pleaded guilty in April 2022 to a forcible touching misdemeanor with no jail time. A separate civil rape lawsuit settled on the eve of trial in 2023. A different civil case ordered him to pay more than $300,000 in damages. He starred in a faith-based film called The Firing Squad in 2024 and told a News Nation interviewer that summer that he understood why some people might be hesitant to cast him. He is 58 now. The man who told a packed Oscar audience to show him the money in 1997 watched his career disappear in the same Manhattan courtrooms where his earliest fans had once asked him for autographs. If you remember seeing Boys in the Hood the same summer you watched Billy Colton hunt bounty on a Sunday night, drop the year in the comments. We are reading everyone. Number 5. Penny Parker walked into the Phoenix Foundation in 1986 in the kind of trouble that always required a Swiss Army knife to fix. Teri Hatcher was 21. The character was supposed to appear once. The audience loved her so much she came back 5 more times across 4 years. She was born on December 8, 1964, in Palo Alto. Her father worked as a nuclear physicist and electrical engineer, while her mother was a computer programmer at Lockheed Martin. She studied mathematics and engineering at De Anza College, while also training in acting at the American Conservatory Theater. In 1984, she was a cheerleader for the San Francisco 49ers. One of her earliest television appearances was as a mermaid performer on The Love Boat. In a 2006 magazine interview, she spoke publicly for the first time about childhood abuse she had experienced from a relative by marriage. She explained that she had stayed silent for decades and decided to share her story after learning that another victim connected to the same individual had tragically died by suicide. She later said that speaking out was motivated by a desire to support other survivors and encourage difficult conversations about abuse. Her first marriage to Marcus Leithold lasted from 1988 to 1989. Her second marriage to actor John Tenney lasted from 1994 to 2003. Their daughter, Emerson Rose Tenney, was born on November 10, 1997. Hatcher has also spoken openly about experiencing pregnancy loss while trying to expand her family. Within a year of leaving MacGyver, she was cast as Lois Lane in Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman. She later appeared as a Bond girl in Tomorrow Never Dies. She also became widely recognized for a memorable line delivered during a 1993 episode of Seinfeld. In 2005, she won a Golden Globe Award for her role in Desperate Housewives. She later voiced both the caring mother and the unsettling other mother in Coraline. Now in her early 60s, she has not remarried and has said in interviews that she is content focusing on her own life and personal growth. Although Hollywood often cast her in glamorous or lighthearted roles, her real-life story reflects resilience, intelligence, and the courage to speak publicly about painful experiences in order to help others. Number 6. Murdoch was the show's most theatrical villain, a master assassin who came back from death so many times it became a running joke. Michael Des Barres played him in 8 episodes between 1987 and 1991, every appearance in a different costume, accent, or false identity. The pleasure he took in the part was visible on screen. The pleasure he was taking off it was only beginning to be possible. He was born January 24, 1948, in Hove, England. He is the 26th Marquis de Bar, a real European nobleman by inheritance, not a stage name. He was sent to Repton boarding school at the age of 8. The other boys went home for school holidays. He stayed alone in what he has described as a Gothic castle dwelling, where he discovered American blues records in the school library and became fixated on them. He made his first film at 17, opposite Sidney Poitier in Tooser, with Love. He fronted the rock band Silverhead, then a band called Detective that was signed to Led Zeppelin's own swan song label by Jimmy Page personally. In 1985, he replaced Robert Palmer as the lead singer of Power Station with only a few days of rehearsal and made his debut in front of nearly 2 billion people at Live Aid. The same year, he co-wrote a song called Obsession that hit number 1 in 27 countries. The same year, he was cast as Murdoch. Des Barres has been sober since June of 1981. That is 44 years, longer than the original MacGyver was on the air, longer than most television programs have existed at all. He helped found Rock Against Drugs. He has done volunteer addiction counseling and worked with homeless teens. He was married to the rock scene memoirist Pamela Des Barres from 1977 to 1991. Their son Nicholas became a video game writer at Platinum Games. He married Britta Hertz on December 21, 2018. He hosts Little Steven's Underground Garage on SiriusXM 5 days a week, reaching more than 6 million listeners. He is 78 now. The boy who was left alone in a stone castle every Christmas grew into the man who has now stayed sober longer than any television show he ever appeared on managed to stay on the air. If these are the kinds of stories you came here for, the subscribe button keeps them coming. The next cast we are researching is already on the whiteboard. Number 7. Harry Jackson was MacGyver's grandfather, the only family member the show ever gave him on screen. John Anderson played him in 6 episodes between 1985 and 1990. He was the man who called MacGyver Bud and gave the lead character a history. Anderson stood 6 feet 5 inches tall and bore such a strong resemblance to Abraham Lincoln that he played the president 3 times across his career. He had also sold Janet Leigh the car she drove to her death in Hitchcock's Psycho. He was born October 20, 1922, in Clayton, Illinois. He served in the Coast Guard during World War II. He earned a master's degree in drama from the University of Iowa. Before Hollywood, he worked as a street mime, a jester, and a juggler. He played Bobby on Broadway in Paint Your Wagon in 1951. By the time MacGyver came along, he had over 500 television and film roles to his name across 4 decades: Twilight Zone, Gunsmoke, Have Gun Will Travel, Dallas, North and South. On June 8, 1946, in the rectory of St. Boniface Catholic Church in Quincy, Illinois, he married a woman named Patricia Kaysen. They moved to Iowa City together while he finished his graduate degree. The marriage lasted 43 years. It ended only when she died on February 18, 1989. His character on the show died too. Harry suffered a heart attack in the season 5 finale, an episode called Passages, in which MacGyver returned home to bury his grandfather. 3 years later, on August 7, 1992, 12 weeks after the MacGyver series finale aired, John Anderson suffered a fatal heart attack at his home in Sherman Oaks, California. He was 69. His ashes were scattered at sea as part of his membership in the Neptune Society. The actor who played Lincoln 3 times and Hitchcock's quietest villain once died of the same heart attack the writers had given his character. 3 months after the show that gave him his most affectionate role finally went off the air. Number 8. Nikki Carpenter walked into MacGyver in Season 3 as a sharp, FBI-trained partner the producers hoped would create the same kind of romantic tension chemistry Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd were creating on Moonlighting. Audiences sent what Anderson later called scathing letters. The character was dropped midway through the season. Alisa Davalos played her. She was born May 30, 1959, in Canoga Park, Los Angeles. Her father was the actor Richard Davalos, who played James Dean's brother in East of Eden. Her sister Dominique is a musician. She graduated from Hollywood High in the mid-1970s and made her first film at 14. She had built a Disney franchise of her own as a young woman. The Apple Dumpling Gang rides again opposite Don Knotts and Tim Conway. Then, Herbie Goes Bananas. She had played Hilary Gant on How the West Was Won. The Nikki Carpenter role was meant to be her transition into adult prime time. The audience decided otherwise. She married a photographer named Jeff Dunas in 1981. Their daughter Alexa was born on May 28, 1982, in Paris. Davalos raised her in France and Italy before Alexa eventually settled in New York. The marriage to Dunas ended in 1988, almost the same season Nikki Carpenter was written off the show. 2 losses in the same year. Her last on-camera role came in the 2007 Nancy Drew film. After that, she stepped behind the camera as a producer and writer, then quietly stepped out of the industry entirely. Her daughter Alexa carried the family name forward into Chronicles of Riddick and the Man in the High Castle. Davalos is 66 now and has not been photographed publicly in years. The daughter of the man who stood beside James Dean became the mother of the woman who stood inside Philip K. Dick's vision of America, and her own most known role was the one viewers asked the show to delete. 139 episodes, 8 people, 7 seasons, 2 graves, 1 Swiss Army knife that became a generation's idea of what cleverness looked like.